We're back! Ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday, April 19th, 2018. You have reached the No Name Cinema Society, and this is our 47th set of episodes and the very first episode of our fourth season. That's right, we are starting the fourth year that we've been doing this. It's crazy. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jonathan Betzler. I'm one of your hosts here this evening. I'm back in Los Angeles, where I'll be for the next month or so. TBD. I'm very excited to be with you here. We're going to review the film Rampage, as you might be able to see behind me there. I'm also excited. I also want to thank our sponsor for tonight's episode. We are sponsored by Archer watch straps, which you can find on Amazon, and you can they come in more than just stripes. There's solid colors. It's kind of cool. And I'm a big fan, so I definitely check them out on Amazon. I'm sure they and we will appreciate that. And you can, while you're surfing the web, you might as well subscribe to our channel and Facebook page if you don't do that already. But that's another story altogether. Stories. It's time to introduce you guys to my co-host for the evening. And this is the first time that we've seen this guy in over 3 months. He was MIA during our finale episodes, and we'll talk about that. He is our own OGA cowboy. Welcome to our fourth season, Drunk Davie.
How's it going?
You were supposed to be a part of our top 10 episodes and our Oscar preview, but you bailed at the last minute, due to work-related things. You were devastated, as I recall, by the whole thing.
Broken up.
He doesn't sound sincere about that, but he was so looking forward to it. Davey, can you sound more sincere? Because I know that you did care about this.
No, I mean, it sucks. It sucks that I work in that top 10.
I really wanted to talk with you online about the Philadelphia Eagles, world champions. We didn't get to discuss it online. I wore this hat for you tonight.
That's good hat, dude. I gotta tell you, I still feel like we could lose.
That's a true Eagle fan right there. That's how Eagle fans feel and have felt for the last 50 plus years, since Chuck Bednarik. Anyway, so that's Davey and the other host with us tonight. Someone you've seen more recently than Davey. He actually was on our Oscar preview. He fulfilled his commitment that he made to the show. And you also saw him stuck in the Forbidden City in our discussion of The Last Emperor. He remains in the Forbidden City, our own ginger and our own genetic physicist with a drug addiction. Ladies and gentlemen, James Monahan.
Just a mild drug addiction. Good to be back. I'm feeling as pumped for this podcast as The Rock after a 5-hour workout.
It should be an exciting episode because right before we came on, everybody, James was telling Davey that he was good looking enough to be an actor and that he was erect under his desk. So things were pretty feisty before we even started tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So
wow,
it was so not under the desk, by the way.
Oh man,
this is the point where I say what I'm drinking, and I'm drinking Goose Island tonight. But ladies and gentlemen, if you watched their last sound off, Davey said he will finally drink with me on a show if we pass 50 subscribers. We are now at 54. Davey, what are you drinking?
This is Tito's.
Can you show me the bottle to prove it?
I threw it somewhere.
Because that looks like water. I'm just saying, like the audience might feel a little gypped.
Hey, let me.
James, I don't know. What do you think? Does it look like water? I mean, like I want to prove it to the audience. This was a big deal.
No, it's vodka, man. It's vodka.
If I show the empty space in the mini fridge. See where that it used to be right here.
Okay, all right. You'll have to take another one then, and just put it on your company tab.
There's no vodka left.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's drink together. Let's have our first sip together. Cheers to you and to our fourth season. He had nothing to say back to my toast, so we'll just let it go from there. and gentlemen, here's the schedule for this, our 47th set of episodes. Tonight, obviously, Thursday, April 19th, we're talking about Rampage, our current movie discussion, just released this past Friday. On Monday, April 23rd, we're doing our first indie spotlight of the year. And this year, we are spotlighting indies from the year 2013, and we're kicking things off with the James Ponsoldt film, The Spectacular Now. And on Thursday, April 26th, 1 week from tonight, we do our classic movie discussion, a very popular classic movie discussion. And we're going to dig deeper into one of our 1942 films, the Best Picture winner of that year, Mrs. Miniver. And I'll make Davey watch that episode. And April 30th, Davey's going to do his top 10. And we're going to answer a lot of your questions related to the finale episodes, including how many Oscar predictions James got right. Also, George will be back. Both of us are going to do top fives from 1942, because we didn't get to do that on the 1942 in Review show. So that's the schedule, and that's coming up over the next couple weeks. All right, let me tell you a little bit about Rampage, guys. A man-made pathogen with genetic alteration capabilities accidentally infects a handful of animals across the country, including primatologist Davis Okoye's best friend, an albino ape named George. Fortunately, Okoye is also former special ops, so it's up to him and an attractive genetic physicist he meets to find a cure before the out-of-control menagerie level half of the country. How was my summary?
2 thumbs up.
And so now let's see what we think of the actual film. 1 sentence for opening thoughts or so. And we'll, I usually make Davey goes first, but James is this is James's 3rd show, so I think he can do it now, even though he hasn't escaped the Forbidden City yet. James, 1 sentence opening thought.
Well, despite a lazy script that feels like it could have been written in 3 days, Rampage will add more clips to 2 demo reels. One which confirms that The Rock is literally and figuratively one of the biggest stars in the world, and another that shows us just how much visual effects artists have near perfected digital mo-capped performances of humanoid animals. That's my statement.
I guess it was a sentence. It was a really, really long sentence.
It had like an M dash or 2 in there, a couple commas, maybe a semicolon.
May have been a parenthetical in there too.
Yeah.
You're a lawyer. You know about these long sentences.
Davey, opening thought, Davey?
I mean, it's indefensible, but I liked it.
No, there's a conflict there. I don't know how to respond to that. So I have to know, Davey, where does that fit on the Davey scale?
Oh my God. Good movie.
Good movie. Wow. So for me, sadly, there was no cure for character stupidity in this movie. And that's my opening statement. I think I do want to start with the screenplay, because James referenced it a little bit in his opening statement. For my part of it, there's a missed opportunity here, because with the concept of genetic engineering, there's a lot to mine. Science and progress, at what price? But all that sort of depth is ignored. And, you say, well, what business does that have in a monster movie? And I point to the original Godzilla, the Japanese version, and its condemnation of atomic power, without ever losing the sight of the fact that it's a monster movie. It had a lot to say about this concept of science and progress and at what price. That could have been here, but they didn't even bother. Guys, am I off base with this?
No.
Yeah, it definitely could have been more probing of certain global concerns, though I am glad they simplified the origin story of the video game. The 1986 Rampage video game.
I agree with that, but that doesn't necessarily weren't without like a handful of inconsistencies and stupidity. I talk about stupidity a little bit. The inconsistencies were so large, it's as if hearing about it screenplay wise. I mean, I think about, I don't know if you remember, there's a moment when Kate and Davis fist bump when they're sort of reconnecting as characters, as if it's like a thing, and it is a thing between Davis and George, but she never witnessed that. She never got to the point where she witnessed that. Like, why is she fist bumping? She has no idea that that's a thing. So that was really bizarre.
That's how strong the connection is, man. Don't get it.
It's a psychic connection.
Yeah.
Furthermore, what these characters seem to survive over the course of the movie is highly implausible to me, multiple times. And I'm not saying they survive in the end. I'm not giving anything away one way or the other, but they survive some shit that they shouldn't, and it loses me. Yeah. Guys, am I wrong? Or
yeah, there's a lot of practical plot implausibility. For example, the scene in the airplane where multiple people are shooting assault rifles inside a plane, which is kind of ridiculous. Yeah, in terms of characters, yeah, a lot of inconsistency. That said, we were promised from the start of the film that The Rock's character was best with animals. He's not good with humans, and he lives up to that. So he's not good with Naomi Harris's character, and the strongest relationship in the film is between him and George. And I thought the strongest acting actually was from George and the mocap artist behind him.
All right, well, we'll get to performances. Yeah. I have more on stupidity, meaning the stupidity of the characters in general. Like from a military point of view, I refuse to believe at this point that military officers always refuse to listen to reason. I mean, Colonel Blake's behavior, it's so bizarre how he continues to pummel occupied area. And I know that's part of what the video game was, but don't even have the scene where he's making that decision or make him a character, because it doesn't make any sense. Like, I would have bought it more if I didn't see a colonel making a stupid decision rather than actually watching his brain think and be like, bring on the Moabs. Are you kidding me? That's one. And the other, of course, is the villains. I don't really understand their plan. Like they summon the animals to a major city. I would think that you would have an issue with this. And I know the games takes place mostly in a major city, but as characters, the villains, they're bringing the animals to them. And how does that make them less culpable? Like they're trying to push responsibility away from them, but they're bringing the animals to their facility?
I think they were trying to frame The Rock's girlfriend.
By bringing the animals to them?
Yeah.
In a major populated area that would clearly do a lot of damage, and that they would hold no responsibility for that damage?
That's right.
So I just want to be clear. Are you suggesting that this was a good plan?
No. This movie is indefensible. It's just indefensible. But I'm laughing right now. Like, I'm having fun talking about it.
And it does really not make much sense after they've already set this special ops character played by Joe Manganiello, who's a charming actor. They say that they're going to kill them because they've lost, since their space project up in space blew up. They need that weaponized DNA.
I understand they were trying to do that, but I still think that's stupid.
No, I completely agree. I mean, it's stupid because I don't understand their plan of how they're going to kill the monsters once they get them there, because that's their idea, is to kill them and then take their DNA and weaponize it somehow.
It didn't make sense. And character development in general was knowingly forgotten. They didn't even bother. Like, even the moments outside the action, and there are very few, are very forced. And I think about the first scene where we see Dwayne Johnson. He's leading these kids, and there's an overly aggressive kid talking about Uganda, and it's really just like weak. It doesn't really offer much at all for me. It's certainly not about the characters that come to make a difference. And everything that we learn about the characters is rattled off to us in a dossier kind of way. And Carlton Cuse is one of the people that worked on the screenplay. It's like they didn't care. Like, it's like, collect the paycheck kind of time.
They did not care.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. So, yeah. So many characters are introduced in the beginning of the film and just discarded. We haven't mentioned the whole movie opener yet, right? Where we have this astronaut in space.
I was saving that because that opening gave me some hope for the movie. I actually thought that was well executed.
But also these people who work at the San Diego Zoo, after that opening sequence, we never see them again, really. Maybe a little bit at the very end. But we just discard them.
Did we see them at the end? I don't remember seeing them at the end.
Don't we see PJ Byrne? Or maybe I'm just imagining. To their credit, I think they recognize, the writers, what the most important relationship is in the film, and that's between The Rock and George. And of course, we do introduce Naomi Harris later as kind of this ally who at first lies to The Rock and has, I guess, a perfunctory emotional backstory. She's doing all of this for her brother.
It seems like you want to talk about performances, so we'll jump ahead to performances. It didn't seem real on the page or in her execution. I understand that they cobbled this story together about this tragic situation, but that doesn't feel real, like, even remotely. And even when, like, Rock's like, I'm sorry, or whatever, it's completely hollow. It isn't felt or understood.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because Naomi Harris has proven to be an amazing actress. I mean, everyone remembers her as Paula in Moonlight.
I thought she was terrible in Moonlight as well. But
okay, well, a lot of people disagree with you on that. She was also charming as Moneypenny in Skyfall.
I was most impressed with Naomi Harris historically in 28 Days Later.
Well, that's where she got her break, right? She says she owes her career to Danny Boyle, which is very generous.
I mean, don't we all in some way, shape, or form?
Hey, so Train Spotting, got me on discovering heroin. So yeah, I did. That's been quite a while. Still riding that dragon.
Well, it's opium out there in the Forbidden City, I think.
Okay.
Now, Dwayne Johnson, his entire career is based on charm and charisma. Here in this movie, the suggestion that he's not a people person, I understand the script points it that way, but the performance does not. I find it disingenuous that he's not a people person, regardless of the dialogue that he says. That's not how he carries himself. And when he does have to be aggressive and talk tough with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, it doesn't work at all to me. As far as DJ is concerned, he reminds me of the career path of past superstars like John Wayne and Will Smith to some degree, who carefully pick their projects to protect their on-screen persona, suggesting they knew what their audience wanted them to be in movies. But the result is predictability and lack of depth. So I do think that, as charming as he is, isn't very good in this movie, and it's unfortunate. And for all your issues with Jumanji, Davey, you have to look at Jumanji as stepping outside his comfort zone a little bit, in the way that kind of big kind of way. And when I mean big, I mean Penny Marshall's 1988 film Big, in which as if playing a child again. He did that really well. Here, he doesn't bring much to the table.
I definitely think that you maybe viewed Jumanji a little more closely than I did.
James liked it too.
It's fine. It was fine. This was fine too. I think they brought The Rock in to play The Rock, and The Rock played The Rock, and The Rock did a good job of being The Rock.
Little tidbit though, he does not like being called The Rock. Very much not like it.
Yeah, if we're ever hanging out, I won't do that.
I try to get out of the habit of it, for that. James?
Yeah, the benefit of Jumanji was the hooky concept where you have Dwayne Johnson playing a person who's actually being operated by a gangly, awkward teenager. So it was kind of built in. I wouldn't credit Dwayne Johnson.
No, but he executed it. Like I agree, yeah. And we talked about how good the screenplay is in our Oscar preview. But I do think that he executed it very, very well.
Yeah, well, he's only as good as his material, and I think, like you say, he knows what he does well, and it's probably smart of him not to go too much outside that box. He's the ultimate PG-13 action hero. Even
when he cusses, it feels weird, I have to say. And furthermore, I would say in this movie, that's why I feel like it's disingenuous of the script to suggest that he's not a people person, because I just don't buy it about Dwayne Johnson.
Because he oozes charisma. I mean, just ask my wife, I mean, we couldn't be more opposite. And he's got that grin. So yeah, you didn't really buy it. They tried to demonstrate it in the film when he turns down flirtatiousness from this young blonde girl, the San Diego Zoo, and gets in a car and goes home to his dogs.
He does it in such a charismatic way, and we never see him with the dogs.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, we see him with the gorilla, so that's enough, I guess.
Wait, you need to see him with the dogs?
I think we need to see an alone home life. Yeah, I think we needed to see how he lived his life at home if we really wanted to establish character. And as soon as it jumped to the next day, I thought it weird that we didn't see Dwayne Johnson at home. I thought it was I felt that missing right away. It felt like a missing piece. Especially when you want to establish a character.
No one wants to see the Rock in a legitimate, sincere love scene, making love to anyone or committing gruesome acts of violence. Everything he does has a meta quality to it. He's grinning and winking at the audience just as much as the other characters in the film. And I think the charm of a Rock film is we watch it and think, oh, he's having a lot of fun making this film, and that boosts our enjoyment.
It didn't in this movie for me.
I don't need every movie to be a drama. I don't need character development. I don't need fully developed characters in an action movie. It's just, this is serving a different purpose.
Yes, but I mean, look, you remember my number 2 film of 1990, don't you?
No.
It was.
Why not?
It was Total Recall, and I think Total Recall is a good example of a movie that has all the action, but
Sure.
but has also character development, social commentary, great filmmaking, and great performances. I think Schwarzenegger is very, very good. I think Sharon Stone is very, very good in Total Recall. Not so much Rachel Tickerton, but what I'm saying is you could have gotten all that you wanted from an action point of view out of this movie and still gotten all you wanted from the characters. You know, it would have been better. You would have cared more. I point to a movie that James and I both like, Spider-Man Homecoming, or a lot of the Marvel universe achieves the action and the character development simultaneously. It doesn't take that much effort. And I granted the Rampage video game is a high concept kind of thing, but there was something there with that genetic mutation concept. It's a real thing, this genetic engineering, and they could have played with that the same way that Total Recall played with things like environment, progress, totalitarianism. That wasn't here at all.
The movie could have been better. There could have been more depth. There is certainly a market for Saturday night at midnight B-movie fare, and every once in a while it goes mainstream, and that's what this is. I mean, it's you know, there are explosions, there's some laughs.
I don't think there was laughs. I didn't think there was very much funny at all.
You laugh at the camp, you laugh at the ridiculousness. It's tongue-in-cheek, a lot of it.
I don't think it is, and one of the reasons why is the score. The score bumped for me a lot. First of all, there's a ton of it. There's a lot more music that there is. We talk when we watch 40s movies about how the whole thing feels underscored. This was almost like that, and the score took itself really, really seriously. I mean, and you look at a movie that's tongue-in-cheek, I think about The Guest, an indie spotlight we did. I think it was episode 10. Everyone's in on the joke. Here, I'm not so sure that's the case. It's very uneven. If some people were joking and others definitely were not.
Well, I completely agree, Jonathan. I think you've actually nailed it on the head in terms of what's most lacking about this film. I actually kind of disagree that it needed any more depth in terms of using this dangerous virus or genetic modification as some kind of metaphor. What it needed was writers who were good at comedy. And I think last year we had many examples of big budget superhero films mainly that also happened to be the funniest films of the year. Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man Homecoming were three of the funniest films of the year. You can have a really perfunctory plot for this film, Rampage. What you need are better lines of dialogue, something like out of the best Sam Raimi films. And I could sense that The Rock may have improvised some lines during this, perhaps. A lot of them sounded improvised, and a couple of them landed, but they were generic. I remember he was taking out a soldier with a sleeper hold, and he goes, "That's a big arm, don't fight it," you know? And the crowd likes that kind of thing, but that's a generic Rock line that could have been in any of his films, but it was very him and it worked. But there are a lot of lines in this film that are extremely lazy. You were talking about unbelievability earlier. At the end of the film, when all the monsters are descending on the city, somebody says, maybe The Rock says, "We got to stop these things before they override the city." Like the most unnecessary line I've ever heard in a movie.
I just thought it was weird, too, that they just sort of hovered over the city for the longest time before deciding to land and go to the building. They're just like watching spectators as like the monsters destroyed the city. You know, that list that you talked about, you can throw Jumanji into that list. And the one thing that all those films have in common, another thing I should say that all those films have in common, is they are about something. They have funny moments, but there's a serious level to them. And I don't think it would have taken much. I don't think it would have taken a lot more effort to sharpen this screenplay up. Maybe even one more pass. I am frustrated because I feel like it was a missed opportunity.
They needed a comedy mind on this, and it doesn't look like they had it. The result are lines that sound like a computer trying to be funny, and it was very awkward. You have lines that sound generic, like someone says, "When science shits the bed, I'm the guy they call to change the sheets." And it's just kind of like,
terrible.
Terrible line.
Jeffrey D. Moore, I was going to talk about his performance. You know, he's made a career out of overacting, but sometimes it's just the right level of overacting. You know, in the Al Pacino, Jack Nicholson, when they're so over the top, it's juicy kind of way. But this is not that. This is just plain old bad overacting. In fairness to all the actors, the script gave them nothing. We don't have a lot of time, but James, I do want to talk about one thing. You talked about the mocap and how good that was. From a craft point of view, the thing that I thought was actually the sound design. It actually may win an Oscar because it is pretty thorough and detailed, and not just in the action and monster sequences. I think it's a fleshed out soundscape. It was very impressive to me. We don't talk about it very much, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I didn't pay much attention to the sound just because I expected it to be big and bold like any blockbuster. Definitely did its job, but maybe it's a good sign I didn't notice it. Is it like film editing? If you don't notice it, it's good.
Davey, any thoughts on the sound?
The sound was good. I think sometimes as you mentioned before, the score kind of distracts you from it. I agree. I thought that the movie looked good too. So
the color palette was a little weird to me, but that it was way too limited and muted. I think overall they could have introduced some more colors in there. It felt a little bland to me from a color palette point of view. And I know that's your favorite term, Davey.
It's up there. It's up there.
All right, guys. We got to wrap things up. Do we have any closing thoughts?
I just want to kind of clarify a point that I made earlier about the Rock, or how they brought in the Rock to be the Rock, and he was the Rock. I definitely
Dwayne Johnson.
I definitely think that there's going to come a time when he's going to do something different, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'm not saying that I don't think he can do it. They brought him in for a specific purpose, and I think he carried it out.
Yeah, I mean, eventually John Wayne did something different. Eventually Will Smith did something different to varying degrees of success. And the more work he does, the more comfortably he is on camera, the better chance he has of succeeding doing something different.
I think we should mention by name the guy who performed George, a guy named Jason Lyles, who's this tall, gawky white boy, actually. He's kind of like us, JB. He's built his reputation for playing a lot of these characters. Men in Black 3, and he's worked a lot with Doug Jones, who's done work on Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy and Falling Skies. Hats off to him. My favorite scene in the film was early. After he's been infected, George kind of whimpers and is sullen in the cave. And I thought that was the most affecting performance from any character in the movie. So watch it for the mocap, folks.
I'd say just don't watch it at all. I'd go with that. James trying to call himself tall, lanky white boy, like me and JB, as if I'm not like 5 inches taller than he is.
Oh, yeah, but who's won MVP twice in a row when we play football?
Yeah, the Myriad Arts Super Bowl, James won that. Now, granted, James, that was 2011 and 2012 or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
So I mean, it's been a while. I want to thank Davey and James for participating in tonight's show. But after all, as my grandpappy used to say, us assholes need to stick together, right, boys?
That's right.
Right.
Great callback, JB. Another horrible line from the film, but funnier in this context.
Thank you, James. So anyway, our next current feature that we're going to discuss is going to be in a month or so. On Thursday, May 17th, we're going to talk about the film Breaking In, which I believe has Gabrielle Union as a mother who's angry. I'm not sure exactly, but that's coming up on Thursday, May 17th. Our next show, however, is coming up in just a few days. We'll have our first indie spotlight of our 4th season, and the first time we talk about an indie from 2013, as we will all throughout 2018. And the film is called The Spectacular Now, and it stars Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley. George Davey and I will review the film in our next show, our indie spotlight. In the meantime, I can say to you, this meeting of the No Name Cinema Society is adjourned.
Adjourned.